Hello, welcome back to historical gameplay, to the events after Alexandros. So this is battle number 12, Battle of Hellespontos, 321 BC. So this is a big one. This is the first major battle between the so-called successors, people who would come to be known successors. At this stage, this is a misleading term. You cannot call them really successors. It's too early. It's probably around 308 BC when, they kill, Cassander kills Alexander's son, Alexander IV, and the dynasty comes to an end. Then you can say they've become successors officially. Right now they're just generals vying for power, not the throne. And what we have here is the first major confrontation. We have Perdiccas on one hand and Eumenes. Eumenes is of course Alexander's scribe. Perdiccas was one of his officers, and he was one of the senior officers that led the campaign and been in a senior leadership post throughout the campaign, unlike people like, let's say, Ptolemy, who rose through the ranks somewhere closer to the second half of the Asian campaign. So Perdiccas here allied with Eumenes, and they have a bit of a problem in that they are trying now. They currently in Cilicia, 321, subduing some locals. There is some political intrigue going on in the background. Nicaea, who is daughter of Antipatris. Antipatris is of course strategos in Europe. She supposed to marry Perdiccas. However, he received offer from Olympias, Alexandra's mother, that he can actually receive Cleopatra in marriage, and Cleopatra is the only true sibling of Alexandros. So he changes his mind, even though he marries Nicaea, not to antagonize Antipatris. He promises Cleopatra he will set her aside as soon as possible. And Antipatris at this time is still in Europe, and what happens, Antigonus now intercepts Cleopatra, who was supposed to have married Leonatus, who we've seen in a previous episode died during the Hellenic or Lamian War. So that did not happen. So Cleopatra is now in Sardis in Phrygia, and Antigonus the One Knight, who is strategos there, he holds her back. He prevents her from going to further to Cilicia to meet Perdiccas. And what happens then, he suspects, the suspicion grows that Perdiccas now wants to marry Cleopatra and claim Macedonian throne for himself. And there is this coalition now developed. On one hand you have Antipatris in Europe, then you have Antigonus the One Knight in Phrygia and his son Demetrius. He also actually holds Cleopatra. Another theory is he wants his son to marry her. And this is coalition on one hand. On the other hand, you have Eumenes, and you also have Perdiccas, and also the Antipatros, Antigonus are also joined by the Ptolemy, who is intercepted at this stage, the body of Alexander, and he took it to Egypt. Now Alexander actually wanted to be buried in Egypt. This was his last wish. In Siva, in that place where he was claimed to be son of Ammon, Egyptian god, he wanted to be buried there, even though there is a tradition of EBII, and there's a royal palace, place of royal tombs in Macedonia. Traditionally the dynasty was meant to have been buried there. He changed his mind. Perdiccas sends his body to Macedonia to be buried in EBII, but of course Ptolemy intercepts it, takes it to Egypt. Okay, so we have Ptolemy, Antigonus, and Antipatris on one hand versus Perdiccas and Eumenes. So this is the first battle. I think I've been talking for too long. Let's just move on, and I'll explain the rest during the battle. So here we are here fighting against, let's just charge him straight on. This is Craterus, I believe. Craterus, I haven't had a chance to actually explain what happens. So Perdiccas went to Egypt. He went to Egypt to actually deal with Ptolemy, who, as I said, had taken the body of Alexandros and would not let the body be taken to Macedonia. So we have Perdiccas in Egypt, and we have Eumenes, who was strategos, appointed strategos in Asia. So he is now in Europe, in Asia Minor. He's strategos there, and what he encounters here is Craterus, which I believe is here. This is his unit. Craterus is of course the old guard. He is one of the most senior and one of the oldest Alexander's companions. He is older than the average Alexandrian companions, maybe about 10 years or so. We don't exactly know. Oh, he passed past here. Let me chase these guys off the field. So yeah, he's known, Craterus is known for his anti-Persian, very traditional, conservative views. So he did not like, and he told Alexander on several occasions, he did not like what happened to the Macedonian court, that it increasingly adopted Asian traditions. So he did not like any of that. So when Alexander was still alive, he dispatched 10,000 veterans back to Macedonia. It was slightly more because 3,000 Hypaspis were also included there. They become troublesome. They were elite shock troops, but they were becoming a bit of a liability. So they were also dispatched, and Craterus, who was married also actually to during this famous ceremony, when thousands of Macedonian officers were, well, basically ordered to marry Persian wives, Persian nobles. Craterus married a niece of Darius III. She was the daughter of the Darius's brother. So he married her. He was not happy with the marriage. He set her aside eventually, and he marries Phila, who is who is proper stock for his liking, proper Macedonian, and daughter of Antipatros. So he's quite happy with that. And now what happens here? He is claiming to try and reverse this situation when they, old guard Macedonians, have to obey commands, orders of Eumenes. Eumenes is a Greek among Macedonians. He was never a military man, and he fits really poorly within this structure of military Macedonian centered hierarchy. So he was taken, he wasn't taken seriously. Always there is this famous incident when, his tent, the place commissioned for his tent was taken away from him, and given to some flute player, and he was bitter about it, complaining to Alexandros. Alexandros first sided with him and then changed his mind, and it was Hephaestion who played the trick, basically. Trying to make fun out of Eumenes. Eumenes was brought to court by Philip. Philip himself, Philip was still around at the time. And what Philip did, they say he was, basically he saw the youth. Eumenes was fighting a Pancration match. It's basically a Greek wrestling sport. And he was impressed, and he liked the youth, and he appointed him as a scribe straight away. So he did not necessarily come from... Okay, we killed someone. Okay, so Craterus was killed. Yeah, I need to start talking about Craterus here. I have no time. Okay, so yes, he was not necessarily qualified, not in terms of his upbringing, not in terms of his ethnic background, not in terms of his social class. And eventually he becomes a scribe under Alexandros as well. He would then eventually be given the command of the elite troops, elite cavalry contingent that was commanded by Perdiccas before, because Perdiccas is actually from the royal family, one of those royal houses that Philip subdued as the Macedonian Empire expanded into Upper Macedonia and towards Illyria, towards Thrace. All these minor kings were incorporated, their sons were sent to serve as pages in Philip's court in Pella. So Perdiccas was one of those royal houses, scions of one of those houses. So he was very proud of his ancestry, he was very martial, and he was actually in charge of the Macedonian army when Alexander had his lungs pierced during the Madness of Indian campaign, when he had a massive longbow arrow penetrating his chest. So he was out of action. Perdiccas took upon himself the command of the army at that time, so he was seen as a leading officer, leading figure, and now obviously with the death of Alexandros, he is the one that also tries to lead the charge. He is here actually in Kilikia. He was with with Philip the third in tow, Alexander's brother, who was mentally he had the mind of a 5-year-old, even though he was in his 30s. So Perdiccas is here. He is trying now to basically he established himself as a regent, and with the help of the marriage to Cleopatra, he hopes to take over Macedonia and eventually become a new king. This is the suspicion that, you know, harbored by Antipatros, by Antigonus, and you know, his son. So they now opposing him, and obviously Ptolemy joins in that opposition as well. He already has the body of Alexander under his control, taken away, you know, smuggled to Egypt, even though he was supposed to have been taken to EBII, like I said before. So we have this coalition now, and this battle actually, Antigonus is managed to, well, he did not manage. He decided to go to Cilicia to a link with Ptolemy there, because Ptolemy now is in this coalition as well. And what happens is Perdiccas, instead of actually opposing this army dispatched with, you know, with from Europe, with Craterus at its command, and Neoptolemus as well. Neoptolemus of Epirus, he was actually a strategos of Armenia of sort as well. Not clear whether he was actually, you know, involved much in the kingdom there in that region, but here he was. So he was actually supposed to have served with other generals under the Eumenes by Perdiccas' command. He of course declined, and he defected to is this our cavalry? Yes. Oh, they're routing now. Yes, he defected basically to Antigonus and to Antipatros. And what we have here is this situation when Craterus takes Neoptolemus with him. Neoptolemus assured him that actually he wouldn't have much of a problem facing Eumenes because the Macedonian soldiers were ready to defect. And what happens here, there was a weird situation. He took his helmet out. He was in this flat Causian traditional Macedonian hat, trying to show himself to the troops. But Eumenes here, where is, oh, he's almost dead. Oh gosh, I need to withdraw him from here. Yeah, Eumenes, we don't want him dead, we want him to survive. So Eumenes here, quite cleverly, what he did, he positioned opposite of the Craterus' cavalry his own Paphlagonian, his own Asia Minor troops, basically, who did not have this connection, who did not know Craterus, and he ordered them not to give any quarters. And basically Craterus, cursing Neoptolemus, who told him that actually it'll be easy picking, you know, without the helmet in this fight. Craterus perishes during this fight. And yes, then what happens on his own flank, Eumenes was on the right flank here. Craterus was opposed by mostly Asian cavalry here. So Craterus got killed. Neoptolemus himself is faced by Eumenes here. They fight, eventually they fall off the horse, they wrestle, and Eumenes, even though he was a scribe, like I mentioned, he was quite skillful in Pancration, is a way of wrestling, Greek wrestling. So he manages to dispatch Neoptolemus, and then he charges forward to the other opposing flank, and by this time the death of Craterus reaches the Macedonian phalanx. What they do, they basically surrender, and they swear loyalty to Eumenes, who is actually Greek, and there's lots of issues with that, like I said. But they do, nevertheless. Some of them then would desert during the night, but this is how this fight should have ended anyway. So we have this Eumenes victorious, we have Craterus dead. So we had one of the armies that opposed Perdiccas and Eumenes basically destroyed or incorporated into Eumenes' forces. The other army under Antipatros was meant to have linked with Ptolemy in Cilicia, so that is still to be dealt with. And Perdiccas, with his body of troops, he is, yes of course, tries to get to Egypt, tries to neutralize Ptolemy there, which he will struggle with. And yes, so this is probably going to be in the next episode. I am not too sure yet, I haven't looked ahead, to be honest, so probably will be one of the next episodes. But this one is, yes, this one is one of the first major battles. Victory for Eumenes. Eumenes was, yeah, quite an exceptional character actually. There was this historian, we do not know, like none of his works have survived, Hieronymus. Hieronymus was, it said he was a friend friend of Eumenes. So he wrote very good account, very account that glorifies Eumenes. Eumenes seen as the true defender of the actual dynasty of the Macedonian Alexander's dynasty. And dynasty would, yes, perish eventually in 308, and there's also a prophecy that, one of their first kings said all of their kings must be buried in EBII. If they don't, then dynasty would perish. And this is actually essentially what happens here, because as soon as Alexander decided he wanted to be buried in Egypt, and eventually, of course, his body would be hijacked by Ptolemy and will not end up in EBII. So this would, essentially bring the dynasty down. This would be the end of it, essentially. So in that way, this old prophecy that was, supposed to have, originated with the first Macedonian kings, it did come true. And the dynasty will end with Cassander, ordering the execution. Olympias would be killed, and then, Roxana, the little star, the Bactrian princess, Alexander's first wife. He would also take 2 more wives at this famous ceremony, and they would be Achaemenid princesses, his wives. So yes, and what is happening here? All right, someone's routing. Okay, so we managed to keep Eumenes here alive for the time being. We need him alive. And we managed to kill Craterus, one of the old guard generals, one of the older ones, one of the more conservative ones. We still have Perdiccas on the loose. Well, what happens here, basically, it's 1-0 for Perdiccas, because he is now, Eumenes, his protege, he is in control of Asia Minor. Things look good for him here, not necessarily in Egypt, but here, relatively well. So 1-0 for him, and we shall see in the future. We should hopefully have more battles, and maybe Battle of the Nile there as well, when Ptolemy would try to prevent and make life difficult for Perdiccas, who would try to cross the Nile to force battle, and that would not necessarily happen. And then I'm not going to talk about this. I think it's going to be in one of the hopefully future episodes. Oh, they're rallying. Okay, they're rallying. All right. Okay. Let's get the cavalry out of the harm's way first. Oh, and look, Phalangites Sarissa is also rallying. Okay, that's great. And who is that? Someone else here. Let's dispatch our cavalry. It's Cappadocians. Okay, Cappadocians decided to come back for more. All right, let's see. Let's see. Okay, let's turn around. Oh no, they're gone now. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Hypaspis. Okay, yeah, Hypaspis were, of course, crack troops. There were about 3,000 of them. They were serving in very, very difficult conditions. They were known for their high morale, for their fierce loyalty. However, they become somewhat of a liability later on, and were dispatched home alongside the 10,000 other veterans. It was actually Alexandros' order. It was still his order while he was still alive. And yes, there they are, fighting here on the side of the Macedonians, because they are, of course, with Craterus. And Craterus was, at the time the news arrived, Alexandros was dead. Craterus was in Cilicia building fleet, trying to get to Macedonia with these 10,000 veterans that included the 3,000 Hypaspis as well. And then he joins coalition, because everyone now suspects Perdiccas of having the designs on the Macedonian throne, and everyone is very, especially once he started to have this develop these ideas about marrying Cleopatra. This all becomes very problematic, of course, and these coalitions start to form on the opposing sides. Okay, what is happening here? Right. Okay, let's force this way. Okay, let's get this way. Let's bring this infantry unit here, infantry unit there. Let's chase these fellas. Can I actually disable? Yes. Let's go there. Exhausted. Let's just get them, boys. Okay, and this unit, I will ask you to encircle this remaining Phalangites. Yeah, the Phalangites, historically, they would, of course, submit now, and they would surrender. And you know, at night, however, they would desert, and many of them would try and join Antipatris and his side. Right, let's see what is going on here. Alright, I think these are the two remaining units, are they not? Remaining units. Oh yes, we have one more unit here. This Hellespontos. Oh gosh, yes, this is a pain. Okay, let's get the Phalangites into the rear if we can. There you go. We still have some cavalry we haven't used. Let me bring them here. This is Cappadocians, I think. Let's see if they can make a bit of a difference for us. This is our unit? Yes. Where's this unit here? Okay, let's chase these gents. I don't want them coming back this way. Alright, so I think this is it, right? Right, charge. Alright, let's put these units into formation here. My worry is now this unit here will not withstand the Hellespontos and this mercenary unit, and will basically abandon the fight. Hopefully that won't happen. Let's bring yet another unit. Okay, these guys have so this is the last unit, I believe, that is still fighting. So we're chasing this man, right? We have, yes, let's bring more units upon them, shall we? Just so that we have it guaranteed that they're not returning. Okay, right, so I think this is the only unit that's still standing. Yes, okay, let's bring cavalry. Let's bring this unit here. Alright, so that's that. Yeah, I'm worried about this unit here, only 40 men left now. Alright, so let's get this into position. They're very tough, very tough. 88 men, like, they're not, well, okay, so who's that? Okay, so that's it, they are fighting to the death. Okay, that's fine, great. Okay, I think that's the last standing unit. Let's bring Humanist slightly closer. Yeah, let's chase this unit just in case. What else do we have here? Yeah, here we're doing fine. Yeah, we're doing fine. So Humanist, yes, he's like being a scribe, you know. He's never been in the field. He's been given command only in India, and he was also meant to have led this expedition into Arabia with his crack cavalry companions, and he was never tested in battle before, so Alexander was, you know, going to give him a try, I would suppose. And because Perdiccas was supposed to have led army itself, main army, and Alexandros was supposed to have joined the operation, the campaign into Asia. In you know, he was supposed to be on with the fleet, and Humanist, yeah, was charged with leading the cavalry contingents, elite cavalry contingent. Yeah, so that was quite unprecedented for a Greek to be leading Macedonian elite cavalry units into the battle, especially Greek, who is not experienced, who's got his reputation as a bit of a bookworm, because they were taking a bit of a, you know, making fun out of him, you know, saying, oh, he was always joining Alexandros with his books instead of, you know, his sword and his shield. Okay, so here we have it, Captain Pharnabazos. Yeah, this was one of the allies of Humanist, who he placed on the left wing, if memory serves me, and who was fighting Craterus and got him killed. So we have won this battle. Craterus is dead, Humanist has triumphed, and the fight goes on. Thanks a lot for watching, subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next battle.